Buenos días, buenos tardes, buenas noches. No importa dónde te encuentres mientras escuchas esto. Estás sintonizado en el único podcast deportivo con cerebos y barras. Es una cosa en blanco y negro con A1 y A-Word. No, 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 no. You didn't hit the SAP button on your listening device, or if you're watching live on YouTube. It's just your boy just came from Mexico. And I've been on my Duolingo lately. You know what I'm saying? What's happening? What's happening? Hola, mi amigas. Huh? Y'all good? Y'all good out there? Y'all doing good? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Like I said, man, I ain't never been out the country before. I was on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. I don't really count. This is my first time ever being international. You know, I just felt like I learned a little bit. Learned a little bit while I was out of town. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to greet y'all with a little Spanish flair. You know, so that I'm working on being bilingual. You heard? You heard? So we appreciate you joining us this evening. You can check out every episode of It's a Black and White Thing by going to the podcast app of your choice, searching for It's a Black and White Thing, searching for Brains and Bars, rate, review, subscribe, all those good things. You can do the same thing by searching us out on YouTube, by searching Brains and Bars on YouTube. Rate, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate everyone who checks us out, whether it be in the audio or the visual version of this show. You can check out my guy A Ward. I am A Ward in his absence. He's out today. Let me take off my, I usually call those my scammers, but those were the international travelers right there with me. You can check out my guy A Ward. I am A Ward on, I think it's I am underscore A Ward on Twitter. I think it's I am A Ward on, I almost said Facebook, on Instagram. I'm trying to think any other introductions I need to get out the way. Oh, you can check out the show by checking us. You can check out the show Twitter profile, the Instagram profile, the TikTok profile, the Facebook profile by searching Brains and Bars. Follow us there. If you want to really follow me on Twitter. That's where we're the most heaviest, which is where I am the most of the time. So check us out at Brains and Bars on Twitter. Man, my guy A Ward, he's got some stuff going on tonight. I want to try to make sure that we are consistent with doing weekly shows. So I'm here. I'm solo dolo tonight. I appreciate those of you who are going to be with me over the course of the next 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour long, as we talk about NBA in-season tournament recap, as we talk about what happened in week 14 of the NFL, looking ahead to week 15 of the NFL. Got an interesting show lined up for you tonight. And if you want to join me, you're more than welcome to join in by commenting. I might throw the StreamYard link out there. So if you want to jump in, talk to me about what you want to talk about for a couple of minutes, you're more than welcome to. I might throw that in the Facebook podcast group. So check us out. All right. So let's get into it, man. Let's have some fun tonight. All right. What else you doing on this Thursday night? I know y'all not watching that football game tonight. I know you're not watching that football game with two backup quarterbacks, no Keenan Allen, no Josh Jacobs, no Justin Herbert. I mean, the Raiders ain't had no quarterback even when they had Jimmy G there. So, yeah, Aiden O'Connell, I know you're not watching that. Even if you got people fantasy-wise, gambling-wise, man, listen, don't waste your time. Friends, let me hip you to something. Friends don't let friends watch bad football. And what you're going to be subjected to tonight on Thursday Night Football is bad football. Believe me. Don't waste your time. Kick it with your boy for the next 30 to 45 minutes. And go on with the rest of your night. Do what you got to do. Be cool how you be cool. All right? All right, so let's get into it, man. Let's get into the NBA first. Over the weekend, you had the NBA Cup, the in-season tournament wrapped up in Vegas. The Los Angeles Lakers took home the inaugural NBA Cup and were crowned champions of the first one. And I just kind of want to give a quick little recap of the tournament. I thought it was a pretty dope tournament, a pretty interesting setup. As someone who has been an NBA fan, who has said that the NBA is the best league around, even I have to admit that as I have gotten older, I have become more hyper-focused around college football, pro football, than I have the NBA. And I normally do not tune into the NBA until Christmas. I kind of watch a game here and there. I do not partake, even though I have league pass, I haven't in the past few years have not been as heavily involved in NBA league pass as I have in other years. But the in-season tournament caught my attention because I was interested to see what it was going to look like, what the atmosphere would look like for the players. Would it have a playoff type atmosphere? Would the games be a little bit more intense than a normal regular season game? And I think that the NBA got that right. If you watch games like in the in-season tournament between the Thunder and the Warriors. That game came down to the buzzer. That game had a lot of intensity to it. There were games that the Bucks, and I want to say maybe the Celtics. I forget who they played, but it might have been the Celtics, where that game had a lot of hype. So no, it wasn't the Celtics. They were in different tiers, but there were just different games across the board that had more of a playoff feel and atmosphere to it. I think the Kings and uh, the Warriors played a lot of high intensity basketball games during the in season tournament where they had the players played as if there was more at stake and as if there was more going than just a regular run of this mill game going on. And so to me, the NBA nailed it from that aspect. I thought it was pretty cool. We talked about the course, we talked about the designs. You either loved it or hated it. I don't feel like there was really in between there. And so again, I thought they got a lot of this right. And I think if you watched, for example, the NBA Cup gave you an opportunity to almost like the NCAA tournament to create new stars. And I feel like the Indiana Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton was the equivalent of a NC, the 12 seed that has a really good player and a decent team that got introduced to America at large. And to me, what really drives that point home is when the Pacers played the Celtics in the quarterfinals, right? That first round knockout stage game. And I had one of my homies, shout out to my homie Dre. My homie Dre was like, his son was like, man, the Pacers, who cares about the Pacers, right? As this game was in its early stages, then Tyrese Halliburton starts to go crazy in the second half. And he's like, yo, like this Pacers team is crazy. Tyrese Halliburton is going off. Like I'm interested in who he is and who in this team now. And to me, I've heard little anecdotes like that throughout that entire run of the NBA Cup of people being introduced to new players, being introduced to new teams, people finding out about Oklahoma City and the fact that this is a real team. This is a team that made the play-in tournament last year for the playoffs, right? They didn't make it into the actual big dance in the playoffs, but they were competitive, they were interesting, and now you're seeing them with Chet Holmgren, with SGA, who might be a top 5 player in the league right now, with oh man, I'm blanking on the young man's name. I think it's Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams, right? They have 2 Jalen Williams, but the one that the guard forward, Jalen Williams, being introduced to those guys, Lou Dort, right? These players that you might not have paid attention to before, you're paying attention to them now. And it to me, that was cool. That was fun, right? To see America get introduced to those teams. I also think that the Lakers winning it for your first one, I think, is the outcome that you wanted. You wanted a glamour franchise, your Bostons, your LAs, your Miamis, to walk away with the championship. And I think having a LeBron-led team walking away with the championship is a good outcome for the league. And I'm not mad at that. I also think one of the cool things that I think came out of this, that if you are a fan of the 80s and 90s, that you liked, was the fact that you got a little rivalry that came out of the IST, right? So I'm interested to see the next time Celtics and Pacers play each other. The way NBA rules are is that when the game is over, you normally dribble the clock out. You don't try to score to show up the other team. But you had at the end of Celtics Pacers, you had Aaron Nesmith, who used to be a Celtic, emphatically dunking the ball. Arenas going crazy, Pacers go crazy. So I'm curious to see the next time those two teams match up, what the energy is like between those two. The Celtics didn't seem to take it any type of way or seem like they felt any type of way, but we won't know until they match up again. But another game involving the Pacers, who, if you have watched them play, are basically first their theology, their ideology, their methodology for their team is first to 130 wins, right? I've tweeted out that the Pacers are basically all offense and vibes. That's it, right? They're not playing defense. They don't really care about defense. They want you to score just so they can get the ball back and try to score in their end. And when they took on the Bucks in the semifinals of the NBA Cup, it was an intense game. That was a heated game. You had Tyrese Halliburton hitting the big shot, and then he does the Dame time Selly, right? He's pointing to it's his time now. And then just last night they had another matchup. The Bucks handily defeated the Pacers. Giannis goes for, I believe, a team record 64 points. And then you had the whole incident after the game where Giannis wants the ball. He's running through the hallways. I think they were in Milwaukee. He's running in the bowels. I think it's the Fiserv Arena, trying to find the basketball that they have given to Oscar Tshiebwe because he scored his first point. You can now, granted, I know there's a site that purports to have the audio of what happened, so you can hear players saying, "Go get the ball, get out of here, don't give it to him, don't give it to him." You can hear all this kind of back and forth going on about this basketball. Giannis wants his ball and he wants to go home. The Pacers have it. He was given a basketball, but then there's some uh, thought that might not have been the actual game ball, that they just gave him a basketball. So you have these small little rivalries that you have the opportunity to create within the IST that going forward I think should be interesting. And I'm curious to hear what y'all think. Do y'all think that the in-season tournament was successful, that it was a good tournament, that it is something that you would tune into next year? Shout out to Ethan Strauss, who is a writer who has covered the NBA for a long time, both on a national level, local level. He covered the Warriors for a bit during the height of their run. And he wrote an article saying that the ISC was a failure because it didn't generate large headlines. And I don't agree with that take. I don't think that that this is something that you can measure in terms of success right away. To me, the future of the IST is going to be determined on what happens 5 years from now. How in tune are we in next year, right? When this thing rolls around next year, how in tune will the NBA populace be? How in tune will the casual fan? This is something that's going to take years of ramp up to generate that casual fan interest. But I tell you this much: next year, when you have the highlight, when it's time for this thing to be rolled out again, and we get an actual, like almost like a schedule release, right? When you start to say, oh, who's going to be in Group A, who's going to be in Group B, right? And when you start to have these matchups and these interesting pool play matchups roll out, where they treat it like that and build some hype around it. I think this first year was kind of like, all right, guys, here it is. In-season tournament, this is what we're doing. Here, go to this page to read the frequently asked questions, which I did several times to try to decipher what this meant, what's going on, how it works, so on and so forth. When you get that highlights package and you start to see, LeBron holding up that small trophy, right, with I think it was medals or wrist, I forget what the actual title, right, because they didn't get rings, right? When you start to see them with the medals and you see him holding up the trophy, you see some of Tyrese Halliburton's performance, SGA's performances, Steph's performances, Luka's performance. So you start to see what these guys were doing on this court, and you have that highlights package, so you'll start to really see if this is taking hold with fans, which I think it's a great idea. It's got people to talk about the NBA regular season before Christmas in ways I have not seen in quite some time. And so, yeah, I think it was a success for this first go round, right? I think it's going to pick up more casual fans who pay attention to smaller market teams. I think it was great that you had a New Orleans, you had an Indiana in that quarterfinal group. And I think if you start to have more of those small market teams, that's something that the league is going to be happy with, because you're getting the eyes of America on those things. Now, I'm curious to also see what tweaks they're going to make to the in-season tournament. And I saw this on Twitter, and I didn't get the username because it wasn't like a prominent user. It was just a regular Joe like myself who said they need to move the tournament to conclude on Christmas Day. And I think that's a really great idea. Christmas, for a lot of people, is seen as the true start of the NBA season. You normally have blockbuster matchups, and if you could somehow program it to where you have in that early afternoon time slot or even the late evening time slot because it is Vegas, if you could have the finals of the NBA Cup take place during Christmas Day when you're going to have some of your the biggest from a viewership standpoint, biggest amount of viewers watching during that time. I think that's a great idea, especially if you're going to have a team like an Indiana or a New Orleans or an OKC or in a couple of years, right? If San Antonio can figure out what they're doing, you can have a San Antonio and a Victor Wembanyama as the highlight of one of your NBA Cup championship games. I think that's a great idea. I think it's harder for the NBA to pull off because you have part of the reason they did this so early. Shout out to Mama Ward in the building. I appreciate you. Part of the reason why the NBA does the NBA season in season tournament so early is because of the scheduling. It's you're basically taking a bunch of matchups and just throwing them all together, right? So you're trying to if you wait till later in the season, now you have other teams who have played each other. You want to try to maintain your schedule balance. And the later you wait to throw that tournament on, the harder it is to schedule these matchups because teams might have already played each other once, maybe twice, right? And so you're trying to keep that schedule balanced. And so I understand why they do it so early in the season. But if they could somehow push it back a couple of weeks so that it concludes on Christmas Day, to me, that's a win for the league. It's a win for those teams. That's something that they should embrace. I think the other part of the tournament that I find to be interesting, that I'm curious about as it goes forward, you have LeBron James and the Lakers winning it, right? And so you have LeBron James, even in year 21, is still the face of the NBA, right? Like that, he is still the man. And so with him getting to a place where this could be his last year in the league, right? We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe he tries to hold on and wait for Bronny to join the league so he can say that he played against him. But if we get to a space where let's say LeBron retires after this year, who is the next face of the league? Right? We had this issue in the post Jordan era of trying to find who was the defining face of the league. I think collectively you had Shaq and Kobe in those early years, and then we kind of those were the default de facto guys until we got LeBron. Who is the next face of the league? Is it Victor? Is it Joel? Is it shout out to my guy Vita Van Pelt? He says Luka is in position to be the next face, but are we as Americans here to have a for lack of a better term, an immigrant, right? To have a non-American be the face of the league. I thought Ja Morant was going to be that guy, but Ja Morant has dropped the ball in a lot of ways. So who's going to be that next face? Like if LeBron is not with the Lakers next year, is it Tatum? Is it Luka? Joel is definitely a charismatic face, right? He's definitely someone who's not afraid of the camera, not afraid of the limelight. Is it Victor? Who is that going to be? So y'all hit me up and let me know. So from an American standpoint, Tatum, I mean Booker, yeah. Tatum or Booker, I think is a good idea from an American standpoint. I mean, I think Tyrese Halliburton, he doesn't play in a large market. So, would he look at moving to an LA, right? Like, do the Lakers say, hey, we don't have LeBron anymore. We need a new star. Do we get Tyrese Halliburton? I mean, I think he is a low key, but somewhat charismatic guy. So, I mean, I find that to me, that's what I want to know. I like Jason Tatum. So this comment, Jason Tatum is extremely accomplished without that ring and MVP. Yeah, I mean, Tavita, yeah, he is. But I don't know if Tatum is necessarily a charismatic face from an American standpoint. This comment says, don't worry, in 2 years, the NBA will move LaMelo to LA. Listen, that might be the move, right? Like, I mean, that again, once LeBron is gone, you don't have a cares like a top face in the NBA that you could say that this is the guy, right? And they're gonna have to figure something out. So we'll see what happens. Y'all let me know who y'all think. Who should be the next face of the league once LeBron steps away from the NBA? I want to say this too, right? I've been critical of the NBA in terms of its broadcast partners, in terms of them not being pro basketball, right? There's always a lot of critique. There's always a lot of hate. And I want to close out on this by saying this, right? Charles Barkley said he was going to roast the Lakers because they were going to put a banner up for winning the in-season tournament. And I find that to be anyone who wants to criticize them for putting up a banner, I find to be hypocritical. And here's why. We in America love winning. We glorify winners to a fault, right? We exalt Michael Jordan. We exalt Tom Brady, Bill Russell. I'm trying to think other great winners, like in terms of brands and franchises, the Yankees, the Lakers, the Celtics, right? These are glamour franchises in part because they are winners, right? The Patriots still hold a spot in our collective consciousness because of what they accomplished over the last 20 years. So this idea that we are going to denigrate the Lakers because they are celebrating an accomplishment, to me, and when I what I'm interested in seeing is as LeBron transitions out of basketball, will he take up that mantle as an ambassador for the game that kind of Kobe had? If you listen to the show, you know I've said this before that one of the greatest losses that that the NBA took in losing Kobe Bryant so early is that he was setting himself up to be an ambassador for the game that pushed the game from an X's and O's standpoint, kind of how people look at Peyton Manning and what he does with his brother, right? Except with his show Detail on ESPN, he was pushing the X's and O's of the game to instruct and enlighten casual NBA fans about the intricacies of basketball and to make it fun, right? To appreciate what you're watching. And so I do wonder if LeBron, as he starts to fade out the scene as a player, if he'll pick up that mantle. Now, a guy who I think who would be perfect for that because he loves basketball, he's passionate about it, is KG. I think KG would be perfect to be that type of ambassador for the game because if you watch his clips, you watch him talk about basketball, you watch him talk about celebrating these new stars and being appreciative of what we're watching. Shout out to JC in the building. What's up, JC? He loves the game. The only problem with having KG be the face of the game and be that brand ambassador, that brother love cussing. Like, he is perfect where he is right now on Showtime because he gets to drop all the F-bombs, all the N-words, all whatever cuss words you want. KG's going to say it, right? But if he could somehow find a way to muzzle his want and his willingness to drop curse words on national TV, he could absolutely be that brand ambassador that the league needs to get the casual fan into the game and to watch regular season basketball games. I think this is a great analogy. Tavita says KG is the Bernie Mac mentor. Like, absolutely. Like, he's going to speak his mind. He's going to say what he wants, when he wants, and he's going to do it with lots of cursing. And that's fine. That's fine. But I mean, like I said, I think he would be perfect for that. Y'all let me know who y'all think, man. Let me know who y'all think should be the next face of the league. Let me know who y'all think would be a great brand ambassador if it's not LeBron. Holla.